Welcome back, everybody. Now that we have all the parts and pieces that we need to finish this project, and we now have the concept of how the numbering should be done, let's go ahead and finish this up. So, hopefully you've gotten that file as CSV file and put it where you have your layout is. Okay. And the way to engage that is through, under Windows, Utilities. It's going to be the data merge panel is what we're looking for. We want to go ahead and pull that up. And I'll move this over for us to work with. And what we have to do is we're going to attach that file to this document. Okay? If we were to look at the original Excel spreadsheet file, you would see that the numbering and everything has already been done. And we're just going to utilize or attach it to the layout. To attach it, we come over to the data merge panel, and there's a little flyout menu on the right hand side, and we're going to select our data source. And then we're going to select the CSV file that I gave you, and we're going to tell it to open. And if it's working correctly, you'll see the name of the file and anything that's in there, okay, that has a label. And the label that I gave this is numbers. And you'll see that it's sitting here in this list. What we need to do is apply this label to these items down here for our numbers. And to do that, we're just going to use our text tool, and we're going to highlight the number, and then we're going to click on the data merge on that label. And you'll see when we do that, it comes up with this format, which tells us that that is directly connected with the data merge. Let's do the same thing with both of those numbers, because it's all going to be the same. And there we are. We have this now linked in to this data merge files with the label of number. Now we can click on preview and see what it looks like. When we do, you'll see that the numbers now appear again, just like the way they originally were set up, except that it's pulling this value off this file over here. The cool thing about this is however you had the number formatted, font, size, style, okay, all that gets applied to this. It's getting the information and throw it in there. The styling is still up to you and how you want it to look like. Okay? Now, the nice thing about it is that once we have it set up, you can check and make sure that it's working correctly, because once we have the preview turned on, we have these little buttons here that will show us the next record, previous record, the first record, and the last record. So we can actually scroll through just by previewing the next record, and you'll see when we do that, the next number comes up. We can keep clicking, and we can go through all the values that are in that file. Okay. Now that we have the file linked up to it, let's go ahead and turn off the preview and save what we got. And the reason why we have to turn off the preview, if I didn't, let me turn it back on and then just go ahead and try and save, you'll see that it comes up with an error. And so, to be safe, you need to turn off the preview before you save, and that'll make sure that the file saves correctly. Now that we have it hooked up, we need to create our tickets with the numbers on them. And to do that, we just come over to the Data Merge panel. On the right hand side, it has a flyout menu. If we click on it one time, you'll see we have all these different options, and we're going to go create merge document. So select that, and this dialog box will come up, and we want to go ahead and merge all records. Just go ahead and say OK. And what it will do, it will create all the pages of all 12 numbers, its own unique layout. Let's go ahead and click OK, and I'll show you what I mean. And this comes up. If you had an error, it would state so. But right now we had no error, which is good. And up on the top, if you notice, we actually have a new file there. Here's our original, and here's the new file that it created. Let's go ahead and select that tab. And if we look under Pages, you'll see all these tickets are now there, all 12. And if we page down, you will see each and every page has the same layout, except it now has the number in it. So this document has all the pages. The original one that we just worked with and created that other one only has one page. So we're done with this part of this file. We're done with it. We can go ahead and close that up. We don't need it. And let's go ahead and save this file down. And I usually have a habit of, if something that's been merged, I usually put merged at the end of the file name, so I know this is a merged document. And I'm going to save that down as well. And I'm going to put it here, because this is where our part 2 is. So we have our document saved. I'm going to move this panel to the side. And we have all these pages. What we need to do is, after it's merged, we need to turn around and export this out as a PDF. And we're going to go down to our presets, and we can either use high quality or press quality. Either or. If you're going to have somebody else print it for you, I would recommend the press quality. If you're doing it in-house with an office copier, then I would just go ahead and use the high quality print. That will work just as well for you. Okay, so in this instance, let's go ahead and use the high quality print. Now, when we're going to make our PDF, let's go ahead and give it a name. Now I'm just going to leave it as the default. We're going to save it down like that. And a couple things we need to do before we actually do the export. First, we want to go ahead and give it some marks so we'll know where to cut it at. Since this layout also has bleed on it, I want to go ahead and use the document bleed settings. If I click that button, you'll see that the bleed we originally set up, the 0.125, applies to this as well. The other thing we want to change is the offset on the marks. Now what that means is, offset means how far off from the edge of the artwork do we want this mark to be. Okay? Since we know we have bleed on this layout, we want to make sure that the offset doesn't sit on the bleed. So we need to give it the same amount, the 0.125 or 1/8 bleed that we gave for the layout, so that this is going to sit past the bleed. I'll show you what I mean when we make the PDF itself. So we have that set to 0.125, and all we need is just like set of crop marks and make sure that we have the bleed turned on. Okay. Let's go ahead and click on export. And you'll see here up on the top, it's working on the document. And when it's done, what we should have is a PDF that we can use for doing our print layout. So we're ready to do the final step, which is to create our pages to print with. So let me show you how to figure out a quick custom page size for when we do this print. So first, we know that it's going to be 4 up on a page. So let me go ahead and let's make a new document. You won't have to do this. I'm just doing this to show you how to find out what that custom size should be. So let's go ahead and just make one 8.5 by 11 real quick. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to place the PDF in there. Now when we go to place the merged PDF, you have to make sure that you have clicked on Show Import Options. Okay? The reason why is if you don't, it will only place the first document on there and that's it. But for this, what we're going to do for this part and the next, let's go ahead and turn on the options so we can see what that is. So let's open that up. And we want to take all the pages. And we want it to crop to, and right now it's set to crop. We can do either media or crop. And by selecting, I should say, those options, it will give us the bleed and the crop marks as well. Click OK. And I'm going to come up to the very top of the page. And I'm just going to click one time to drop it on there. And I'm going to go right on the bottom of it. And it will snap the next one if I get close to that edge. And I'm going to click on the next ticket right underneath it. Do the same thing for the third. And one more to make it 4 up. We don't need the rest of the tickets for this, so I'm going to hit the escape button on the keyboard, and that'll cancel that place of the rest of the tickets. So here we have 4 of the tickets on a page, and I'm going to go ahead and select those, And when I do, we're going to see what that group setting is right here. So the size is 6.1667 by 10.6667. That's the size of all of these tickets, 4 up stacked, with bleed and with the crop marks. So that is actually what the custom size page we're going to make. Okay, so I'm going to close this out and I'm not going to save it. That's just to give us that custom size that we're going to do now. So let's go ahead and create a brand new document. And we're going to select the size we want it to be. And remember, it's 6.1667 by 10.6667. And we know that we're going to have 3 pages at the end. So let's go ahead and make it 3 pages. And we don't have to have no margins. And we also don't need any bleed either. So you can make sure those are set to 0. So let's go and click on Create. Now we have our 3 pages set to this custom size. Let's go ahead and say what we got first. And I'm just going to call it ticket output. Save that down. And then I'm going to go ahead Command D to place. And we're going to select that ticket again, that PDF, that merged PDF, I should say. And make sure that is still selected. And when we click open, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to click on all the tickets and make sure we set this thing to either crop or media so that it include the bleed and the marks. Go ahead and click OK. And now we'll do the same thing. We'll start at the top and click one time and go right underneath it to the corner, and you'll see that these items basically just snap on next to each other if you get close to that edge. And it's some custom fit, so when we get to the 4th ticket there, it fits exactly to the page. Now we just need to go to the next page down and continue on placing our tickets one after another. And if you're a little off when you're placing it, don't worry, because you can go back and fix it after we've placed all these tickets in. Let's do the same thing with the last page. All right. So basically, here's our ticket pages already set up, ready to go. And you can go in and check real close to make sure that they are butt up against each other. And if you see something that needs to be fixed, you can actually take and select the graphic and just kind of pop it back to the corner, and it will snap in if you need to. And once you're happy with everything, let's go ahead and save it down, and we're ready for output. Now, we have a custom sized page that we created for this so that we don't have to worry about where to put the tickets at. They just sit one on top of each other. When we go to print this, I'm going to hit Command P to print. When we print this out, we're going to go under Setup, and we're going to tell it we want all the pages. It's going to be on 8.5 by 11. We want to go ahead and center it on the page. We don't need no marks or anything. And we want to make sure that everything is set up for full color. We want to send all the data that's in there. Sometimes you'll get this optimized subsampling. You don't want that. You want all the data going over there, okay? And let the printer work out what it needs and what it doesn't need. You don't want to send not enough information over, okay? So send all the data over there. And because it's sitting centered on a page, you don't have to worry about how it's going to work out when it actually goes to the printer. So it'll sit there centered on the page with the marks and everything, and you'll be good to go. Okay, I'll go ahead and cancel that. And when you're finished, all you would have to do is stack up those 3 pages and cut those out, or have them cut out through a service or your local printer. If you don't have a cutter, they will cut it for you, and the price for that will be very nominal, okay, because they usually cut by the job, or how many slices there are for the job, and you'll give them everything they need to be able to print these tickets out for you, no problem. That's the end of this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it.